Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy, Kevin Forte, and we have some stuff to go over with the Vancouver Canucks. We are continuing by the day to get more developments on this Canucks team. A little bit of an update on Brock Boeser. We have an interesting player that seems to be in the mix for big Brock Boeser. There's some talk about Nils Höglander. A lot of you Canucks fans here on the channel have mentioned Höglander as a name that could be on his way out. He's still on his entry-level contract. He was drafted just a few years ago in the first round for the Canucks. Kind of interesting there. We go over big defenseman Tyler Myers. He seems to be generating just a little bit of interest, and the Canucks seem to be looking for a way out for him. And the Russian player that is in question, he's been rumored to go to potentially the Edmonton Oilers and the Vancouver Canucks, so I will give you an update on that. So we're going to be going over all of that. The first thing we're going to go over is Brock Boeser, the Brock star up in Vancouver. We talked about him last week in a video on the Canucks. And there's not much to talk about right now, but we did get an interesting report from Panagiotis Mavridis. I got to figure out who that is. The Los Angeles Kings are one of many teams that have called on Brock Boeser. Now, this isn't too big of a surprise in terms of the kinds of teams we're looking at. Teams that would like to add more offensive punch to their top six, preferably. And Brock Boeser fits that bill. He's been a really good player for the Canucks this season. I just don't think they have the money logistically to re-sign him. Unless they're moving on from a JT Miller, or they're moving on from Pettersson, or Hughes, or making some drastic move that we don't know yet. Brock Boeser is going to be the guy that ends up leaving Vancouver. A lot of teams on the East Coast, I'm sure, would definitely love a guy like Brock Boeser. Certain teams, maybe lesser extent, but the Islanders, I think the Islanders are a team that's looking to add that punch. Probably more of a move the Islanders would make this summer. You're looking at some other metropolitan teams. The Rangers have kind of been looking at some other guys like Jake DeBrusk. They've been looking at Philip Forsberg recently, the top guy on our trade bait board. But teams like the New Jersey Devils, I think the Devils would definitely be an interesting spot there. But again, they are a non-playoff team. They probably won't be buying at the deadline. So it's one of those things. You're maybe looking at a team like Minnesota. Does he return back to Minnesota? What about Pittsburgh? Is it Pittsburgh Penguins maybe going in that direction? That could work as well. The Carolina Hurricanes, just to add some more winger depth. We know their center depth's pretty good. So there's a couple of different places we could see Boeser go. And the LA Kings are the latest to that list. So this is from Rick Dhaliwal. Teams are calling on Nils Höglander. This is a player whose ice time is not great under the new coach, which is Bruce Boudreau. I would say to you to keep an eye on that situation. Now, Travis Green, who was the head coach of the Canucks at the start of the season and throughout training camp, he was high on Nils Höglander, a guy that was playing in the top six, middle six at worst, has now found himself seeing his minutes drastically get decreased. And that is a part of the Bruce Boudreau effect. That is something he has taken a lot of flack for in the past as a head coach, not playing the young guys. And I think the Canucks, who were desperate at that time, ended up going in a different direction. And unfortunately, it kind of hurt Nils Höglander's development with this Canucks team. So now we move on to David Pagnotta. The Canucks are trying to explore the trade market for defenseman Tyler Myers. Tyler Myers was a Buffalo Sabres pick. He was a big part of the Evander Kane situation with the Winnipeg Jets. He ends up going to Winnipeg and inevitably ends up as a member of the Vancouver Canucks, where he has been. He signed a long-term contract, and that is his place now. But unfortunately, he doesn't look like he's going to be a part of the team's future outlook, as the Canucks are kind of looking to clean out house, move out some salary for a big summer. They're going to have to move some guys out, as Oliver Ekman-Larsson has really taken a big cap, portion of the cap. They're also paying out some, guys that are pretty good, like Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes. They just don't have the cap space to get this stuff done. And unfortunately, a guy like Tyler Myers, if they could move him, it's something they're definitely going to have to explore. Now, this is from Rick Dhaliwal again. The Canucks are among many teams who have reached out to agent Dan Milstein about Russian free agent forward Andrei Kuzmenko. He has 53 points in 45 games this season with the SKA KHL team, which is SKA St. Petersburg. We've had some really good hockey players come out of there, really in the past 15, 20 years. So that's definitely a name to look at. Another team that's also been tied to Kuzmenko is the Oilers, are likely one of the teams in on KHL free agent Andrei Kuzmenko, and that's from Jim Matheson. So the thing is, there's going to be some PR situation. I'm going to have to make a whole video about this with this whole Russian situation. But I don't know what the mindset is here for Andrei Kuzmenko's perspective and for the teams looking to acquire him. I don't think it's going to matter that much if he could help them win a championship. But even for the players' sake, do you want to go to North America right now? Do you want to go to the West? That's something that is going to have to be talked about for some of these guys coming over right now. We're seeing a lot of guys from the European teams or teams in Russia. A lot of players are going back to North America because they're like, it's not too safe here. So depends on where you are in that situation. So that will play, I'm sure, into Andrei Kuzmenko's final decision. So that is it for our Vancouver Canucks update. Nothing really too eye-popping or crazy, but the Brock Boeser stuff is definitely gonna gain some interest around the league because he's a pretty damn good hockey player, and in 2018 was the runner-up to none other than Matt Barzal for the Rookie of the Year. Had he not gotten injured, it definitely would have been a pretty tight race. And he was still ended up being the finalist alongside Barzal. So we'll see what happens. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.